The political big three of the top political stories. Everyone's talking about it, so let's get to it, shall we? Images of children detained in cages are fueling the backlash over immigration policies. Why does the president keep blaming Democrats for the border crisis? Laura Bush calls the separation of families cruel and immoral. Melania Trump wants a government with heart. Is her husband listening to any of this? And the FBI agent who was kicked off the Russia probe says he is willing to testify before Congress without immunity. Are we in for a Capitol Hill showdown? Joining me to talk about that and more, A. Scott Bolden, former D.C. Democratic Party chairman, and Jen Kearns, GOP strategist and contributor to The Hill. All right. As you both know, all anyone is talking about is this crisis at the border and how children of immigrant families are being treated. I just talked to a Texas state representative, Jen, who called what's happening at the border child abuse. Do you agree?
Well, look, Carol, it certainly is tragic. I think if anyone, Republican or Democrat, had a choice, this would not be going on. But look, as I look at the rhetoric on both sides of the aisle here, including the former First Lady Laura Bush weighing in on this, I'm really shocked by the rhetoric of this. I wish that Laura Bush, a woman who I have great respect for, had done a little research in the history books, because it was her own husband who signed this provision in the law to separate families when he passed the comprehensive immigration reform and signed it into law in 2008.
With one caveat, and I'm going to interrupt with one caveat. So President Bush did sign that, right? But it didn't apply to migrants or people who are asking for asylum, which is why the numbers have gone up, right? Because it's a zero tolerance policy. Even if you're a migrant, you're being abused in another country, you are in fear for your children, if you try to cross the border, you're going to be prosecuted and your children are going to be taken away. And that is a different policy than it was under President Bush.
Exactly.
Well, but look, the current policy still allows for asylum seekers to not be separated from their families. It's only the people, in the Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, reiterated this properly yesterday, which said if you are here seeking asylum, you will not be separated from your family. You will be kept together as a family unit. That is the current policy of the United States of America.
But that's not what's happening.
But it's only those who are coming across illegally and not entering legally at a proper point of entry that are being separated and going through the court system.
No, Jen has a point. And Scott, I want to play what the Department of Homeland Security Secretary said just about a half hour ago about this very thing, because the onus is being placed on the parents. And then, Scott, I will ask you to comment on the other side of this. Here's Secretary Nielsen.
Illegal actions have and must have consequences. No more free passes, no more get-out-of-jail-free cards, no more lawlessness. Today, DHS is referring those who illegally cross our borders to the Department of Justice for prosecution. It is important to note that every day in communities across the country, if you commit a crime, the police will take you to jail, regardless of whether you have a family.
Okay, so what she's saying there, Scott, is if these migrants would approach ports of entry instead of trying to cross the border illegally, their children would still be with them.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but let me just say this. Just because they could do that, you're putting a lot of pressure and onus on some immigrants who are fleeing their country, whether it's for asylum or whether it's because they want a better life and the American dream. You can't blame them for wanting to come to the country, and if they don't come the right way, then you take a hard line and say they are criminals. Listen, as a former prosecutor, the laws are what the laws are, right? But justice has requirements, and then justice has discretion. And normally, you would exercise discretion whether we were on the streets of New York or at the border. And my point is that Donald Trump does not have to do this. In the Obama administration, these same laws were in place, and they may have done this in 20 or 30 instances a year. But this hard line that if you cross the border illegally, you will be charged criminally as a misdemeanor, and your kids taken from you, which is a traumatic experience, is an American disgrace. And he could stop it with one phone call. And by the way, Stop blaming the Democrats, okay? The GOP controls all 3 houses, right? And he blames the Democrats because they won't vote with him. Well, he needs to get his own party to vote with him because he's taking in fire and criticism from both Dems and Republicans, especially prominent Republicans.
Well,
so
I'm
just
glad
stop
Scott
it.
mentioned.
Be
I'm
honest
glad
about
Scott
the
mentioned
discussion.
Barack
Be
Obama
honest
and the
about
Democrats
discussion.
because the photos we recently saw of the children laying on mats on the ground on these cement floors behind cages were actually from 2014 from the Obama administration.
And the
talking about
GOP,
an
we
abominable
got
we are
clips.
looking.
One, that's not true.
No. Stop. The pictures that I am showing right now were provided us by the Trump administration, who allowed us in to take this video.
Exactly.
These pictures are not from 2014. These are from over the weekend. I just want to make that clear.
No, these weren't, but there were
See, that's the Republican
previous ones
See,
that
that's
the
the
Democrats
Republican
shared. Previous ones that the Democrats shared that started this entire debate were
That's
from
not what we're
2014
seeing right now.
from the
And
Obama
you're
administration.
seeing children and some of their parents lying on the floor. That's what you see.
Yep. And you know
Currently.
what? They could avoid this.
Currently.
The parents could avoid this by coming in. We have tons of ports of entry in this country. We have one of the largest ports of entry in my former home state of California in San Diego, the San Ysidro Port of Entry. These parents have been warned by President Trump, who I think at the outset of this gave a very compassionate message. He said, parents, do not bring your children here to the border. This is not the appropriate place for children to be. This is where
So you're being persecuted by your government. Here's President Trump saying that.
This is where sex traffickers hang out. This is where the children should not be. Come to the proper point of entry, and the American government will take care of you.
Carol.
But if you choose to come across hills and fields, your children will pay the price.
They've been
And I
doing
think
it
that
for
was a
years,
compassionate
Carol.
message.
Scott, last word.
They've been doing it for years. And here's the deal. Watch this, right? How's that working for the GOP? This hard line, you're a criminal and you're going to be prosecuted and kids will be separated, right? How's that working for the GOP? Illegal immigration at these various border states is up. It's not working. And yet they want to be held, the GOP wants to be held as an unwilling prisoner of this policy that they must enforce.
At
Enforcement is a
immigration
choice,
points in
and it's a
places in
and it's their
Arizona where there's been
discretion.
tough
Could I
border
please
control.
finish?
Okay.
I didn't interrupt you,
Crossings are down
please.
76%.
It's not
It's working quite well for
Immigration
United
is
States
up. It's not
Well,
working at all. And
I wish
everybody's
somebody
not a
would just
criminal that
fix
comes
it all.
across that border like the GOP would lead you to believe. It's a lie. Stop lying, GOP. Donald
Tell
Trump,
the Democrats
stop lying.
in your party to fix the loopholes, including the Flores
gonna do it.
agreement and the human trafficking agreement. The Democrats, there's a vote currently in the U.S.
guarantee we'll
Senate
do it in
that
November
has
when we
zero
get the majority.
Democrat
The
votes.
Republicans
The
control
Democrats need to
Congress
help out
and
there.
the White House. I got to end it there.
can do
A.
it on their
Scott Bold and
own.
Jen
That's
Kearns,
a
thank
fact.
you so much. We'll talk more about this in the next hour, but boy, what an emotional issue. Somebody needs to fix it, right?